Hello everybody and welcome back to Circuit Simon Says. Today I am taking a look at the Aston Martin Carrera GTE by Carrera, Aston Martin Vantage. I have the Four Horsemen Racing one, and it's one of the very few cars that I have that aren't actually red, so something a bit different for me, and it is awesome. As you can see, it's a really nicely finished car and very nicely printed. There you go, with a little fluorescent yellow wheel nuts there, and you can see just behind the spokes the moulding of the brake discs and the brake calipers. It's a really good looking car there. There was the side exhaust. So being a Brit, I do like the Aston Martins. So yeah, it's a really good, well finished, well printed car. There we go. But this is one of the modern GTEs. So again, this one does have some of the thinnest rear spoiler uprights. So when I run this car, I do like to wiggle the rear spoiler out. It does just pop out of the holes. Because yeah, these wings are going to be prone to damage when you either conk them against a barrier or against another car. Yeah, they're a little bit spindly, but that's just how the car is. BMW has the same issue there. You can see my BMW here, back here. It's starting to have some glue put on that spoiler. I've started taking that spoiler off, so yeah, fingers crossed this one stays in one piece. But it's a beautiful car. Look at that diffuser there. Wonderful. And let's talk about the quality of this car. Carrera do have awesome QA/QC. I don't know of a manufacturer of slot cars, and they call these toy grade cars, these Carrera ones, but I don't know a manufacturer who has the same quality of fit of body to the chassis. I mean, look at that. There's no gaps. It's perfectly fit, very, very snug, and I don't know any other manufacturer who has that level of tolerance in their manufacturing to produce bodies and shells that fit this well. I suspect if I was to put this down on a flattening block, it would be dead flat. Now, because the Carrera cars run two magnets, front and rear, I'll pull the top off in a minute. Carrera run slightly harder tyres, so they don't quite stick as well as other manufacturers out of the box, but Carrera using the magnets for that. And this is quite a nice car to drive. It's pretty quick. It runs actually really, really closely to the BMW. Maybe there's a tenth or less than a tenth of a second on Circuit Simon Says between the two, and I've got a nice mix of sweeping curves and short twisties and a hairpin. So these two cars are really good to run against each other. Yeah, very, very competitive with each other, and they both look stunning. So let me put the chassis side by side here, and you can see size-wise what it's like with the BMW. So with the BMW here, you can see that the BMW is a little bit longer wheel to wheel, has a slightly longer wheelbase, and guide to rear wheel. I lined that up, there we go. Yeah, the BMW is a bit longer, so it has a little bit more weight to throw around in the back into corners. So the BMW is maybe a little bit more prone to being a little tail happy. But like I said, these cars run very, very close to each other. On the underside, the wheels themselves are or appear to be, without getting out the calipers and counting tenths of millimeters. The tyres are the same size and the same width, both front and rear, it appears, or they're very, very, very close. The width of these two cars, if I put them back to back, tyre to tyre, these cars are the same width, so they have the same track, which gives them the same stance on the track, both front and rear. You'll find that. So these cars, like I say, they run very, very similarly, within a tenth of a second, I want to say. So, you know, with the same track. The BMW is a little bit longer. I think the BMW's a little bit slower, but not by much. And that may be because the Aston Martin has a tighter back end and is less prone to swinging out. So, but only just. Like I said, if you were to race these two together, you'd have a fun, close race. So being a Carrera car, I want to show you what's on the inside. With Carrera cars, at the price point that Carrera offers, you get an awful lot of value. You get, this is a digital car, by the way, you get the working front and rear lights, and being a digital car, this also has the brake lights. You got the motor with the RF suppression, I think that what chip is for, so to stop the interference with the digital signal to the digital chip, and you get the digital chip. And the digital cars are about $10 more, so if you're going analog at the moment, but at any point down the road you think you may go digital, getting the digital car straight away might be the way to go. A digital car will allow you to run the vehicle on an analog track, but you can't run an analog car on a digital track. So if you've got one and you're thinking of upgrading down the road, or your buddy has one, then you know it might be worth a $10 upgrade fee to a digital car, versus getting an analog car and having to pay for $30-40 for the analog digital chip. But you know, when you put these things together, everything does fit. I've just got to find everything does fit very, very well together. Look at that precision fit. So that's one of the things I really like about these Carrera cars. They're molded very, very well. They're considered toy grade cars, but they're definitely first class fit and finish. So great job to Carrera on that. So I'm going to put these over to the magnet measuring tool and compare the magnetic downforce of the cars, and then I will run some laps. So let's get on that and I'll be back. Okay, so here we are at my downforce measuring tool. Oh, get my elbows off the table. And I know my target on this from my previous video, there you go, is about 120 grams. I think it's around about 118 I first measured it. So this isn't too bad, it's a little bit off, but not too bad. We're calibrated to the BMW and that's showing 120 grams, so it should be a good comparison. Like I say, this is just a good comparison tool. I'm not trying to be, you know, uber accurate, but it should show up, you know, any major discrepancies between the two cars. So 120 grams for the BMW, which is right around in the ballpark where I've measured it on my other videos. So we'll take that off and we'll bring in the Aston Martin. Get that centered. And yeah, 118, 120 grams. So that makes a lot of sense with the lap times. Not only are the cars sharing a similar track and have very similar tyres and wheels, they also have a very similar magnetic downforce. So this would probably explain why they run very, very close times to each other. So let me get set up here and we'll put some laps down and then bring it back to the table. Okay, let's try and put in some clean laps with the Aston Martin Vantage.
Fastest lap by Simon Says. Fastest lap by Simon Says.
It's a very consistent car and it's very easy to drive.
Fastest lap by Simon Says.
And you know, the digital, you know, does give it the brake lights, so yeah, it's a good looking, well driving car and very well matched to the BMW. Okay, with that, let's bring it back to the table. Alright, so as you can see, currently the Aston Martin Vantage holds the 4th fastest time. The fastest being the Porsche, which is, yeah, half a second or so faster, with the Polycar Ferrari and the Carrera Capri Zac speed not far behind. Then there's like a half-second gap back to the Aston Martin, and you can see just how close that Aston Martin runs to my current fastest BMW M4 time. So these two run very consistent laps. They're easy to drive consistently, and they're very competitive against each other. Then that's followed by the Lancia, which has a very narrow footprint. It's short and narrow, and much narrower on the front. And this is followed by the Polycar Ferrari without any magnets. And finally by the Revo slot, well, not finally, the Revo slot Ford Escort. And then the Carrera truck at 7.5 seconds. So it's 1.5 seconds faster than the Carrera truck. But yeah, for the modern GTE cars, these two that I have, they're very, very comparable to each other, which will make for some seriously good racing. So let's get my tyre cleaner out of the way. Yeah, it's a pretty car. It's really good looking. It's well printed. Like all the Carrera cars, the quality is spot on. The fit and finish is damn near perfect. And you know, people complain about the Carrera tyres, but they're suitable for how the car comes out of the box with these two magnets. You can get consistent lap times, and yeah, I think they're just a bit harder because the cars come with quite a good bit of magnetic downforce. Sure, they could be faster. Would I want them faster? With the more grip? I don't think I would. I think the speed is good for this track. There's only so fast you can go before everybody is throwing cars all over the place and into each other. So yeah, Carrera, you've got a good car here. And that's it for this review. The Aston Martin Vantage GTE. Great looking, great running car, very easy to drive consistently and hit that consistent time. So yeah, highly recommended. Good looking, can't go wrong. Well, everybody, have a good day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.